Yeah, well, Nzinga, it is quite an interesting and a sad scenario, I suppose, for South Africa. We're meant to be, of course, the most advanced economy in Africa, but certainly struggling with what is essentially the worst scenario when it comes to unemployment. It is a systemic problem. As you can see there, we tried to put together two countries that saw systemic levels of high unemployment, and it may be a little bit difficult to put Spain and South Africa together because Spain is a more developed economy. They had varying issues, particularly after that economic crisis in 2008 and 2009. But I want to bring you to this level right at the top here, which is the second quarter of 2013, when Spain saw its unemployment level reach around 26.9%, nearly 27%. South Africa was sitting at a similar mark of around 25%. In that time, the green signifies where Spain has gone. And as of the second quarter of this year, Spain's unemployment rate has gone to around 15.28%. While we still sit with levels well above 25%. It is a systemic problem that South Africa has tried to endure through many economic plans, through many economic ways and models to try and put through. Of course, we've had four since at least the turn of the decade, and let's unpack some of those as well now. We take a look at the new growth path, which was the first one that President Jacob Zuma put together, wanting to create 5 million jobs by 2020, reduce unemployment to 15%. That is a far cry from where we currently are. And as I've said, Spain being able to cut down that unemployment rate by more than 10% in just 5 years. Clearly, if you just implement the right methods and implement the right reforms, that level could have certainly been reached. 6 priority areas: infrastructure, agriculture, mining, manufacturing, the green economy and tourism were meant to be touted as the big growth areas for South Africa. And Jacob Zuma at the time, President Jacob Zuma, called that the year of job creation. That was the year 2011 when he put out that new growth path. But a year later, he then decided, well, actually, let's put together the NDP. Yes, the National Planning Commission had been formed a while before that, but then its recommendations came out. And this is exactly what they decided to put together as they adopted the NDP in 2012, eliminating poverty by 2030, expanding public employment programs, and of course trying to increase employment to 24 million by 2030 from 15 million back in 2010 at that time. Raise per capita income from 50,000 Rand in 2010, that is as well, to 120 by 2030 as well. Reducing inequality, measured particularly through the Gini coefficient, from 0.68 to around 0.6 is what they had hoped to do, reducing unemployment to 6%. But not so long ago, very much this week on Monday, the National Planning Commission then went on to call the NDP's goals impossible. At the very most, we can expect unemployment to go down to 14% as an ambitious target by 2030. It seems we have failed on that front. That was only the second plan. We then went on to see 14 confidence-boosting measures adopted by Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba. At the time, he had put out 14 ways in which he wanted South Africa's economy to be able to be boosted, which would then help that growth and job scenario in the country. Finalizing a sustainable wage agreement, because you keep the unions unhappy, and certainly not going to see a good enough scenario happening on the jobs front there. Financial Sector Summit, which wasn't convened, so a few of these certainly not coming to the fore. Small business development, finalizing a government fund, which we still haven't heard word of, developing a framework to eliminate non-core assets by March 2018. Let's remember that we are now in October 2018. We still don't have that framework. Perhaps the medium-term budget policy statement will have that for us. Remuneration framework and private sector framework implemented. Parts of it were, and certainly is helping. SOEs consulting on costing development mandates. All we have particularly is SAA. We're still working on the ESCOM one, so it clearly is a scenario that needs to be fixed. And then the Energy Minister finalizing lowest possible cost-integrated energy and resource plan. That continued, and you'll see a whole lot more as well. 5-year turnaround plan. This was finalized and is beginning to be implemented, although they're finding a lot of difficulty in trying to find a partner to work with when it comes to SAA and how exactly they can continue to make this airline, SAA, much better. Spectrum licensing, we've been wanting to switch for the longest time and still haven't been able to do so. And now, hopefully, they're trying to get that on board. This is part of a new plan even as well by President Cyril Ramaphosa. But as a part of Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba's plan to boost South Africa's economy, increase job creation. He had put through these 14 confidence-boosting measures. It clearly hasn't worked. And thus, we then got to this scenario where we saw petrol prices increase left, right, and center, unemployment remaining stubbornly high and around that 27% mark. And not so long ago, we saw President Cyril Ramaphosa then releasing his new stimulus plan that we'll unpack for you as well. The main elements of what exactly came out of the plan, if we turn to that plan in just a moment or two as well, released not so long ago. And this was all aimed at trying to find ways in which you can take old plans and perhaps rejuvenate the market and create new ways of how we can boost South Africa's economy. Hopefully we can get that graph up as well of how President Cyril Ramaphosa wanted to build on the stimulus plans that have been created before. On 21st of September 2018, seeking to create a 400 billion rand SA infrastructure fund, which would be situated in the presidency. Infrastructure in South Africa is collapsing ever since 2010, and it has seen a continued slowdown with many companies, the likes of Group 5 as well, struggling and going into business rescue even in some cases. Visa regime reviewed and allowed to ease entry of SA. We saw how that's fared out not so long ago with the Minister Malusi Gigaba. Their mining charter finalized with mineral resources bills scrapped, electricity port and rail tariffs being reviewed. All of these were set by President Cyril Ramaphosa on the 21st of September in an aid to perhaps boost unemployment prospects or employment prospects in South Africa as well. That is the picture just before the job summit. All of these need to be addressed. The implementation of these plans is going to be more critical than just the plan itself. How exactly will this come to the fore, considering that the Department of Social Enterprises as well in South Africa hasn't even been invited to come through to the job summit? That is going to be a story that we will follow over the next 2 days. Exactly what comes out of the summit, we will continue to unpack right here on Market Sense.